Good afternoon and welcome to our Wednesday show, Jour du Galop. We're going to go through the training of yesterday. Obviously, we'll also discuss what happened on Saturday's races. We've got our barrier trials. There were 5 barrier trials, but we're just going to talk about 4 of them. That 5th one was just really sort of a couple of older horses trying blinkers and that sort of thing. So the first 4 barrier trials we will talk about, and then obviously we will be talking about some training that myself and Shahil have spotted yesterday morning. Let's start off with Saturday. First of all, Shahil, welcome. Welcome back to the show. Let's talk about Heart. Wasn't that an unbelievable win? I mean, it was. I just, I've sort of always, when I see this horse sort of entered again, I think, well, this is going to be tough for him, and wow, he really proved me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it is for the first time now that we're saying he's been impressive. The way that he wins his races, the way he just took off at the 400, it is where he wins his races. He just steals the races there. Yeah,
you took the words out of my mouth, Shahil. I mean, that's where he's winning his races, It's amazing how quickly he sort of opens up that gap from the 400 and exactly effortlessly, and then you have a look behind and you sort of wonder why sort of they've let him sort of get away, but then you have another look and they're off the bit, and he's got them off the bit, and that's how he's winning his race. I have to say, when I saw him in the paddock and going down to the start, he looked absolutely amazing. And well done to Vincent Allett, and well done to Raksha. If you don't know, myself, Shahil, and Raksha on the radio channel Waza, and she was very confident about the chances of Cool at Heart. I had my doubts. I thought the bigger boys were going to be a little bit too tough for him, but obviously the Barbie must be an option now. Has he qualified as far as ratings concerned?
Yeah, I think he is qualified, but it will be much more difficult at level weights, and I'm sure there must be another front runner who's going to go out with him in the Barbie. But it's interesting to know which route he's going to go, because he's still 4-year-old though, so he could go and clash with White River in those last 2 legs of the 4-year-old championship.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how Cool at Heart, where he goes. Look, he has had 4 runs now, so I would imagine they're sort of maybe thinking about just giving him a little bit of a break and getting him prepared for whatever they're targeting him up for next. But once again, Cool at Heart, very, very impressive winner. He looks like he's going to be a top horse. Well, he is a top horse in the making, but he could, on Saturday's win, he could probably be a big sort of runner in one of the classics later.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, we're talking about Cool at Heart. I mean, obviously, you got to sort of congratulate Vincent Allett on Derek David. Vincent bagging 4 winners. And Derek David, he rode 3 winners. He's riding very well, Derek. He's riding with a lot of confidence, which we all know Derek has got. But it's amazing, if you go back to last season, the 7 wins only for Vincent, and he's pulled off, well, it's already 13 now. So that's a massive turnaround. I would imagine a lot of his horses would have dropped in division last year. But, to win 3 races in a row, 4 races in a row, well done to them. They've obviously changed something, but it seems to be working, and long may it continue for Vincent and Derek David. Striker Stratum, first ride, first win. What did you think of Pierre Stratum, the South African champion? Did he impress you?
Yeah, he did. Obviously, I did fancy a lot of Danger Rock, but the way he jumped out and he placed him, like you said, he's a master at placing horses off the gates, and the way he did that was very exceptional. He turned in for home, and he had a 1-length lead, and the way he assisted his horse with full of confidence, that was very impressive. And just to note, Danger Rock bled again, so despite that he won. Very good ride from Pierre.
He gets one thing about Pierre Stratum, he gets horses so well balanced. And he did admit on TV that he's battling a little bit to get used to the track, but I think there's a lot more to come from him. Let's talk about 1 or 2 horses. Play another tune. There was another very, very impressive performance from him. The further he sort of went, the further he won the race by. I was a little bit sort of surprised. Olivier Placé sort of pulled him out and gave him a couple of cracks early on around that turn. Sometimes as jockeys we put pressure. Well, no, I used to anyway. But I know we sort of put pressure on ourselves. I think that would have won with the hands and heels. But I think we sort of. I'm not saying he's getting pressure from the stable, but sometimes when things aren't going 100% correctly, you sort of get under pressure, and you maybe do make a couple of earlier moves that you should have.
Actually, he said on TV after the race that even last time he had to do that because before the turn in for home, Pilano de June has that tendency of dropping the bit, and he feels like he's going nowhere. But then again, he picks up again in the straight, and then he goes again.
That's a sign of a good horse.
That's what he said on TV. Obviously, it was in French. You couldn't understand it.
No, I couldn't. Okay, then 1 horse, before we get on to the rest. Barrack Street, I liked him. I think you're also quite bullish about his chances on Saturday. That was impressive win from a 9 draw. Okay, he had 52.5, but he raced wide most of the way. But one thing I've noticed about Barrack Street, I went back to South African form, and there was a couple of times he was commented to be short, not striding out. I think they've obviously got him sound because he's a decent horse, so I reckon he's going to win a couple more in Mauritius.
Yeah, even before he came here, we spoke a lot about him, and you said that when they do win a 2-year-old and they battle a little bit at 3-year-old, when they have this change, like coming here, did this a lot of well to them, and that's exactly what happened to Barrack Street. I'm sure he'll go further.
Yeah, so do I. Okay, well, that was Saturday. Let's talk about our 2 to follow, Shahil. My horse is Silken Prince. That was a cracking run from him. You have to be honest, I never gave him much of a chance leading up to the race on Saturday. In fact, I sort of just brushed by him. I didn't even give him a second notice. Purely on his South African form, he won over a mile. I just thought this 990 was going to be hopelessly too short for him. But it was an excellent run first up. He was slightly sort of slow away. He put it at the back of the field. But also had to come out wide, you know, because obviously when those sort of front runners were starting to stop on him, he had to pull out wide. Manuel Nunes got him going in the top of the straight. And I must be honest, I thought Danger Rock was home and hosed. And this was just sort of flashed up. I suppose the bleeding probably didn't help Danger Rock, but he really flashed up this horse, and he looks like he's got a nice career in Mauritius. It was a terrific run, and I think he's definitely a horse that we're going to follow in the future. Silken Prince. Nice to see the Herchand horses and are starting to sort of find their form now, the stable. Very nice for them. Okay, well that was Silken Prince. Shahil, who's your 2 to follow? Who did you say it was?
Even the last race was Red India actually. He broke up from barrier 10 out of 10, and he had a pretty tough race because he had to settle at the back and rear of the field. Striker did get him relaxed very well though. He raced throughout the race at the back. He had to make a move pretty early. He had to pull out wide, and then when he came into the straight, he was finishing off really strongly, but Striker dropped his width at around 200 meters, and he couldn't assist him properly, and that's probably where he cost him the race. Watch Me Dad was home and who's, like you said. Listen, he's a promising run. I think you did fancy him on that international race where he finished second or third. Yeah. He's shown promise again, so one to follow definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think at the end of the day, I think probably Watch Me Dad was just too good. You know, if you go back on his South African form, his 2 runs here were pretty decent. He's probably just too good on that. We did make Watch Me Dad a banker, but we did mention Red Indy as well. So I think he's probably looks like he's ready to pick up a race soon. So I do agree with you. Definitely a horse to follow in the future. Right. That's the past. Let's move over to the future. And we had some barrier trials. We had 5, but we're just going to talk about the first 4. The first one, there was Titsikama Dance. Very, very nice horse. And then Sir Bernardini from the Patrick Mervyn stable. He had the blue jacket. Titsikama had the yellow jacket, by the way. And there was Elusive Path as well from the Vincent Allen stable. Let's talk about Titsikama Dance. Well, he's another good buy from the Jean-Michel stable. He's a 4-time winner. He started his career off in Cape Town, and then he moved over to Andrew Fortune, our friend Andrew Fortune. He did pretty well there. He won, and then he also was placed in a feature. In fact, I think he won a minor feature. There was a top runner, and he was 3 lengths behind South African champion miler, Legal Eagle. That was a cracking run, and this horse really looks like he's a very, very nice horse. I see got a little bit of a sort of urged nicely by Cedric Sejean, but I think he's going to be a top little horse as Titsikama Dance. Very, very nice. Shrewd buy from the Jean-Michel stable. Sir Bernardini from the Patrick Mervyn stable. He was galloped by Rai Jurawan. I was surprised he got a couple of cracks from Rai, but he's got some excellent form this horse. He's a 4-time winner. In fact, he's only been at the money once in his 13 starts, and I suppose the most impressive performance, in my opinion, was the third to Socrates over 1200. He's quite versatile, this horse. He's performed well from 1200 right up to 1600, and like I said, given a couple of cracks by Rai Jurawan to sort of keep up with Titsikama Dance, but he's obviously a very talented horse, especially on his form. And then Elusive Path, well, he's been sort of coming back from a long absence, probably just a gallop to get him back onto full fitness, but it'd be nice to see Elusive Path come right, because I think he was sort of highly regarded in South Africa. He has had the 1 win here, but probably hasn't been as hopeful as they thought he was. And just to mention an interesting thing, Titsikama Dance, I don't know if you noticed that he ran in a match race in South Africa against, I think, Bad Dan the Lad. the two of them, and it's nice to see those match races. I haven't seen one for many, many years. I'm talking about live. I remember a very, very good match race between a horse called Senior Santa and Northern Princess, top horses in South Africa, and that was, I mean, they just sort of brought a lot of crowd to the races. It'd be nice to have one year in Mauritius, a match race, find two sort of very good horses, and it'll be quite interesting if we could one day have a match race, and that'll be quite exciting. Okay, well, that was the first barrier trial. Let's talk about your barrier trial, Shell, the second barrier trial?
Yeah, that's right. We had 3 horses in there. Steel March with a red jacket from Simon Jones stable, Zodiac Jack with a yellow, and Bye Bye Rocket, a newcomer from the Shan Ho-Chan stable with a green jacket. Steel March, he was tried with the blinkers. He jumped well and trialed nicely. He's battling to get back to his 2017 form where he won 3 races. He's had 1 run this season and he didn't make any big impressions. He will probably be competitive when he gets down in the benchmark, so let's see how Steel March goes. Zodiac Jack, he was once again slow to begin. He quickly managed to make up that lost ground though. He trialed nicely in what was a really nice gallop for Zodiac Jack. Last time out again he was slow to begin, but he finished off really strongly against Boria, a very promising horse. The $1 million question is, how do they make him jump? And obviously by Rocket, a newcomer from the Shan Ho-Chan stable. He broke out well, but was quickly restrained by Emmanuel Nunes. He wasn't asked to do much. This horse has got some interesting South African form, to say the least. He's run only twice for a 2nd place on his debut, and then he went on to win the 1 million Monaco maiden in that Turf and Dane. The form of that race has worked out pretty well, with many winners coming out of that race. This horse could be absolutely anything.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. He looks like he's a nice little, well, he's got some nice form. Zodiac Jack, and your question was, how do they get him to jump? And I've said it before, Cheryl, once they get into that habit, very, very tough to get them out of that. I mean, just have to look at Man from Seattle as well. Okay, let's move on to the 3rd barrier trial. We had Falkland from the Pedro stable. He had the yellow jacket, trying the blinkers for this first time. One of your favorite horses, Al Sakra, green, Gajara stable, red jacket. He was having a repass and then bypass from the Rousset stable. He had the green jacket. Also trying the blinkers for the first time. Right, let's talk about Falkland. And well, he hasn't shown much in his first 2 starts here over the 990, which is surprising because his form back in South Africa over 1,000 meters was quite good. So he's also another horse that's run close to that, or Socrates. They've decided to try the blinkers. Maybe that's going to work. I see you've never used them in South Africa, but you never know. It could just work. On his gallop, he showed a lot of nice speed, and Falkland, maybe with those blinkers, is worthwhile following. Al Sakra, I can always get mixed up with this horse's name. Well, he's a beautiful son of 7th Rock. Hard to believe he's only a 1-time winner. He's run behind some cracking horses, this horse. And I think we've mentioned before that he has beaten Highland County when he won. Kings County, I beg your pardon, Kings County. He's got very, very good form, and it's actually another thing that's very hard to believe is that he's only racing off a merit rating of 38. He's also running the Gauteng Guineas. He's running the Daily News, if I'm not mistaken. He's running some top races. This horse, only a 1-time winner. Only rated 38. I reckon he's going to be a lot better than his rating suggests, and he's definitely going to be a horse worthwhile following for this season. And then Bypass, well, you could say there's been slightly disappointing this horse. He did win at 1850 last year. Been disappointing after that. The 1850s are back. See, Saturday we've got 2 1850s, and they are back, and maybe that the extra distance and the blinkers is going to be in his favor. Bypass, because I don't think he's too bad, this horse. In his sort of rating, he's not too bad, and maybe the blinkers is going to make a difference as far as Bypass is concerned. Okay, that is the 3rd barrier trial. Charles, you're going to do our 4th and final barrier trial?
Yeah, that's right. This time we have 4 horses. Silver Heritage, a newcomer from the Ricky Manga stable with a green jacket. Got to Fly from the Jean-Michel Henry stable. Inauguration, again from the Jean-Michel with a blue jacket. And Man from Seattle with a red jacket. Silver Heritage is a newcomer. He's had only 3 career starts back in South Africa for a promising 2nd. He jumped well and he followed in 3rd position. He was very green because he had an awkward head carriage throughout the trial. He even jumped across in some occasion. He quickened up very well when Praveshoril asked him for an effort though. He'll probably need needs some racing experience, what he gets used to the track. He could shape up as a very nice horse, Silver Heritage. Got to fly, obviously, an inexperienced filly who reared badly on Saturday, and he injured Brandon Louis and was scratched. She jumped much better yesterday and trialed really nicely. Obviously, she will also need some racing experience to do better here. Inauguration, a newcomer. He's had 3 career starts back in South Africa, and he's got actually some very interesting form because he beat Play Another Tune on his debut back in South Africa. He went on to run a big 2-year-old run against Barahin, and his latest run was, I think, in a listed race against a good horse from the Gavin Banzil stable, Marching On Together. He's rated 25, as most 3-year-olds are, and he should do well in this class. And obviously, man from Seattle, he jumped better, actually, yesterday with the blinkers, I think. But he was quickly pulled up by Yashin Amamdi, and he'll probably be racing this week. I think he's entered in the last race,
yes,
1,500 meters.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I suppose it's not easy for Got to Fly. She's the only female in a whole group of men, so it can't be easy for her. But let's hope she sort of behaves herself. Okay, well, that's the barrier trials we want to talk about. Let's talk about our 10 horses, our Sandtrack horses. The first horse I want to talk about is Taranaki. If I remember correctly, it is one of your 2 to follow. And there was a brilliant second on debut to Anton Ruskin over the 1450. Went slightly slow away. I suppose he is looking a lot fitter. He's working a lot better as well. I think obviously with that run under the belt, he definitely has improved, has Taranaki. On Saturday, he is entered in the last. It's a 1,500 meter benchmark 0.26. He is rated 26, so he'll be carrying 61. I think that extra 50 meters is going to suit him, especially the way that he was finishing. And obviously the fact that he's had that run, the experience, he's a bit fitter. Taranaki, big run in the last race on Saturday, in my opinion, especially from what we saw in the training.
Yeah, exactly, and Gilbert Rousset horses are not really in great form right now. Probably Taranaki could give them a boost of confidence. Yeah.
All right. Okay, then you wanted to talk about the heavily supported Manetherin, who won a very good race on debut. How's he going?
Yeah, he's going very well. Like you said, he won impressively on debut because he was free wide all the way throughout the race, and the way he just quickened up, and his strides are magnificent. This horse, we never expected him to win that easily that day. Even the paddock, he wasn't looking that really good. This race has brought him on really well because his gallop yesterday was really impressive. Actually, like I said, he's got a lovely action, big strides. Manetherin, I do believe he'll be very tough to beat against once more. I see he's entered back in a benchmark of 36. This is where he won last time, so he's not going up in class. He'll take a lot of beating this Saturday, Manetherin.
Yeah, he's blowing the box in that race.
I think he is.
I think he is, because I want to talk about blowing the box. He worked alongside Dollar Tractor, and we're just talking about Manetherin. He has also finished just under a length behind him. I thought he was unlucky. He got caught wide most of the way, and he still put up a very good fight in the finish, even though he was caught wide the whole way. It was his first run of the season. He obviously, like Manetherin, he's sort of come on quite a lot. It'll be interesting to see if he can turn the tables on Manetherin, but obviously that horse is going to make sort of the normal improvement. But blowing the box, I thought that being caught wide cost him more than a length than last time. So it'll be an interesting race between Manetherin and blowing the box this time. I've always sort of rated blowing the box. I think he's run some good races in the, was it the 3-year-old championship or the 4-year-old championship? I think it was the 3-year-old championship last year. And yeah, he's nominated in the 3rd and the 4th race on Saturday, but unlikely to get a place in that 3rd race. There's about 20 nominations. He is out of bracket. He's got 61.5, so he probably will have to run in the 4th race, and that's the race where Manetherin is, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure.
No, Manetherin is the 3rd race.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, blowing that box probably but they probably won't meet then, because he probably is out of bracket there, and with so many nominations, I doubt he's going to get a place. So let's see, he'll probably have to shift up to that 4th race, but he's doing well. There was a nice work next to Dollar Tractor. Right, Silver Rock, do you want to chat about him?
Yeah, he was pretty unlucky last time out, and I did fancy him that day because he had some nice form against Stockbroker. He was 3rd behind him on the 3rd meeting, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, he was very unlucky last time. He couldn't find a gap in the straight. Sunil Basant had to pull him after only 200 meters from the post. He's jumping much better in his races now, and that's a really good sign. He worked well alongside 7 Silver. So I'm not sure if it is a Mauritian race on Saturday, but if Striker gets on board on him, I do believe he'll be best suited to Silver Rock's racing ability. Yeah,
I'm not sure if it is a Mauritian, but if I remember correctly, last week was a Mauritian race. I think they sort of skip week by week, so I would imagine that Pierre Ström would probably be riding him, but I think they've got 2 horses entered there as well, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. Right, Cyber Special. Well, after 2 unlucky defeats from the Jour du Galop stable. He managed to win last time. I thought he won a decent race. In my opinion, he's sort of now, he's a young horse, immature horse, but he seems to be getting better and better, especially the fact that he's had the 3 runs now, and he's looking a lot better. He worked well yesterday, and well, he is entered in 2 races on Saturday, both over 1850. In my opinion, that's what he's looking for. Yeah. Although he hasn't been that trip in South Africa, it just looks like he's also he's got a long stride. He is by that stallion Shawis, and most of his horses do stay. So I think he's looking for the 1850. Like I said, he's nominated in 2 races. The one's quite a big jump from a 26 or 25 rating to a 36, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other race, probably a little bit better for him. That's the 7th race, 1850. I would imagine that's the race he'll probably be targeted for. And I think Cyber Special, I think you've always sort of rated this horse. After the 2, or he was very unlucky in both his first 2 starts, and then he won a nice race. But I think he's looking for the 1850. I'm expecting a big run from Cyber Special.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think last time he did one on the 1600 meters, and the way he won looks to be, he's suggesting that he's asking for more distance. Yeah. Definitely will be better suited.
Yeah, and I think still learning how to race this. Yes. So I think he's definitely a horse worthwhile following. Looks like Jour du Galop, like you say, the stable's not in top form. Maybe these horses could turn it around for him.
I did talk with Neisius some weeks ago, and he said that they're counting mostly on these newcomers this season. So definitely Cyber Special and Taranaki will be 2 to follow this week.
Okay. Promissory from the Inform Vincent Elliott stable?
Yeah, probably, like you said, Inform stable, 4 winners on the weekend. It was very unlucky to get caught on the line by Barclaven actually last time. He was given a little break because we haven't seen him for a month now. He worked really well with Derek David alongside Kudutu, and it was interesting to see that they tried him with the blinkers. He's entered in race 4. I think blue in the box is in there on a 1450. So let's see if he runs with those blinkers. If he can get to the lead, probably Promissory could be a hard horse to catch.
Yeah, he's sort of quite a hard knocker, this horse. He always gives a good effort. Yeah, you know, if you have a couple of rupees on him, you know that you're going to have a run for your money. Right, the little grey horse, Good Buddy, continues to impress as he gets better with each run. Yeah, he just seems to be getting just better and better, this horse, Good Buddy. And well, he's been a horse he's the horse that's finished closest to Rule the Night. He ran second. I think he got beat 2 lengths or length and a half, if I'm not mistaken. So he has been the horse finished closest to Rule the Night. And well, I thought this horse's target would probably be the 2nd leg of the 3-year-old championship. I'm surprised to see he's nominated on Saturday. I'm not exactly sure when the 2nd leg is. Maybe they want to give him a run before then, but he's right down at the bottom of the sort of the nominations of that particular race. The horse that he worked with, Sharkaholic, he's also nominated in the same race. So it'll be interesting to see which horse runs, because I thought Good Buddy would be sort of targeted for that 2nd leg. Obviously, the distance is going to be a lot better suited to him. And well, he's a nice little horse, this Good Buddy. He's not big, but he's got a little bit of ability, this horse, and he's working pretty well. Nice work with Sharkaholic. Let's see if he runs on Saturday or if he's going to run later on. Right, your next horse was Notre.
A newcomer from the Gilbert Rousset stable. He's a 2-time winner for 2 places in 6 starts back in South Africa. He has run against some decent horses because he's run second to the Pravin Nagadu Superstar Twist of Fate in the Politician Stakes in a Group 3. He ran a good 7th in the Cape Derby behind Atyab, only 4 lengths behind him. He's obviously a very promising horse, but he's also classy because he's running those big races. He's been working well. He should be making his local debut very soon, but he's a horse that could be asking for distance. So let's see how he goes over probably 1600 or 1850 later on in the season. Yeah.
Interesting that you mentioned Twist of Fate. He's nominated. I think he's in the Daily News. Daily on Saturday. Yeah, it'll be very nice for sort of Mauritians to have a nice horse running in the Daily News, and obviously he will be prepared to run in the July. And from what I believe, Nourish Juglal's booked to ride him. Is that correct?
From what we've hearing,
from what we heard, Nourish Juglal's has been booked to ride Twist of Fate. So good luck to all the Mauritian connections as far as Twist of Fate is concerned. Right, let's talk about Tower of Wisdom. The 5th race could possibly be decided between the 2 top weights, Tower of Wisdom and Bad Attitude. They both ran together last time. I thought they both had excuses. This was Tower of Wisdom, caught one off, never covered, taking a little bit of a hold, and then eventually just sort of faded in the straight. And if you go back to his form, I mean, he's allowed sort of one poor effort, and I'm going to ignore that. He's obviously a lot better than that last run. So Tower of Wisdom, I think that he's going to be a big runner on Saturday. but don't forget bad attitude. He was also very unlucky last time. If you go back and have a look at that start, he sort of like fly jumped out the start. He missed the break. He was quite far out of his ground, and he really ran on very well. Did bad attitude to go down sort of a neck, I think, behind Yankee Doodle Dandy. And I mean, both of them, you can sort of, both of them were unlucky. And that fifth race looks like it's going to be fought out between the two top weights, in my opinion. So let's see how that goes. All right, the last horse on the card, we haven't mentioned one of Rameshwar's horses. Oh, we have.
Silver Rock, yeah.
Silver Rock, yeah. So, okay, Chili Con Carne, Pierre Stradom will probably be in the irons on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. He's a nice horse who's won 2 races last season. He's had a nice run first up this season when he was third to Ideal Secret that day. Interesting that he didn't run with the blinkers that day. Probably the blinkers will be back on this Saturday. He does like to lead, and he can take some catching, but I think Al Mariachi is in that race. It is interesting to see what the tactics they're going to use with Chili Con Carne. And another interesting fact is that Pierre Stradom has won on him and ridden him back in South Africa, so he must obviously know the horse. He's entered in the main race this week, and on his current form, he must have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, Chili Con Carne in that 6th race. The 6th race looks like it's going to be quite another exciting feature, interesting race. Okay, well that's a wrap from us. So remember Friday on the mark, and then myself, Shahil and Raksha, we are on the new radio station Waza, and our show is between 5 and 6 on the drive home. Please, if you've got some time, have a listen. We actually had a lot of fun last week. We managed to find quite a couple of winners. Raksha was pretty good, and you had a terrific day as far as...
I predicted all the 8 winners, but I never had a pick 8.
Yeah, well, you had a terrific day, did Shahil, on Friday. So if you do have time, tune into Waza on Friday evening. Watch our show on the mark on Friday as well. We'll do our best to try and get you some winners for the weekend. Goodbye. Thanks very much for joining us.